are kind of filing in. So, gotta ask the question, who here has bought the book? All right, I see a lot of hands, I would like to have seen more hands, all right? But that's okay, we still got another 2 weeks in the series and then kind of brainstorming for a workshop at the conclusion of the series, because sometimes people still have a hard time wrestling and trying to figure out their number. So we're trying to think of different ways we can help facilitate that, because figuring out your number is going to be key to joining a community group, all right? So the beauty behind community groups is that when you figure out your number and you join a community group, you bring a unique perspective to that community group. So you'd be speaking and navigating the information as that number, okay, in your community group. So it's really important that during the next two parts of the series and in that 1 week that we have before the community group start, to get the book, to read it. If some of you have mentioned I've taken the test online. While I think that's okay, it's there. The best thing is to read your chapter or read the one that you got, because a test or even what I'm sharing is not the actual material. So you got to really navigate the material and work through it in order to really understand who you are. So now that everybody's kind of settled down, let's stand up and pray and we'll get started. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. We thank you, Lord, for everything you've given to us. We thank you for this day, for the opportunity to journey together. Pray, Lord, that you would continue to open up our minds and our hearts, that you would challenge us to look inside, that you would reveal to us the hidden things in us and bring forth wisdom in those areas. Please guide us and guard us on this journey, and in the intercession of all your saints, hear us as we say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. In Christ Jesus our Lord, who led us to the kingdom of Christ. These are off. All right, so here we go. So what's your number? Heart Triad today. So quick recap. So we just finished the anger triad last week, which was 8, 9s, and 1s. 8s being the challenger, 9s being the peacemakers, and 1s being the perfectionist. All right? And all these three struggle with anger, but they all deal with it in a different way. The 8s externalize their anger. 9s forget about their anger in order for the sake of peace. And 1s internalize their anger. Okay, and in their internalization of the anger, they tend to be very resentful of themselves and those around us. Okay, those around them. Now, a couple things. I had a chance, and I've been talking with different people. All right, and a lot of good discussion has happened during the series, but I want to give some caution. All right, just a reminder: no number assigning. Okay, don't go up to someone and be like, "You are such a 2." Okay, you whole bowl of 8. No, we are not here to number other people, because the truth is, you will likely get it wrong, okay? And you also don't want to spoil it, because if there's something, special about reading the chapter and all of a sudden having things make sense. So, no number assigning, no number spoiling on this journey. And if you really think that you're a number, get the book and read the chapter. All right? So now we're moving on to the Heart Triad. And the Heart Triad, we have our 2, 3s, and 4s. Okay? The helper, the performer, and the romantic, which also can be known as the individualist. When we look at the Heart Triad, these numbers are the most emotion-oriented, relationally centered, and image-conscious numbers on the Enneagram. Okay? Emotion-oriented, relationship-centered, and image-conscious numbers on the Enneagram. They tend to struggle with their identity more than the other numbers on the Enneagram. All right? So they wonder who they are, and they, at times, can project a false image of who they are as well. All right? So, without any further ado, let's go on to the helper. All right? Helper, number 2 on the Enneagram. Is there feedback coming from my mic? I'm not sure. No, we're good? Okay. All right. So, Number 2 is a helper. I tell you a little story in light of the retreat that we got coming up. I remember coming off a retreat, and retreats are always exhausting because you sleep very little, a lot of energy, all these different things, and the thing is, like, at the end of the retreat, somebody always needs a ride home. And so, giving a ride home to somebody and just feeling tired, I'm like, I just want to go home, And we meet late at night, and as I met the parents of this individual, the individual's mom met us in a parking lot and didn't just meet us, but man, did she meet us, okay? I had a bagged lunch, upon dropping off their child, of like a sandwich, a snack, I think there was a juice box, and like cookies or something like that. And you're just like, oh, this is exactly what I need, because I was like so hungry. And kind of looking back and reflecting on it, that individual's mother was most likely a 2, okay? Because the keys about twos, as their name implies, are helpers. And they're very helpful, but they tend to help without you even having to tell them that you need help, all right? They're the ones who, before you get there, they've figured out everything. They know what you need. They put everything in place. They make you feel welcome. They make you feel like you are understood because your needs are met, all right? And they want to know how you're doing because they want to know how they can help, all right? So that's kind of, at surface, a 2. And normally, at this point, we go into talking about the keys about 2s, but I'm going to change it up for the 2s, okay, and talk about the sin of 2s, because understanding the sin of 2s is going to be more helpful when we go to understanding the keys of 2s, all right? Now, the sin of 2s is pride, which seems so counterintuitive, because you're like, okay, how can somebody who can think of what another person needs and fulfill the need be prideful? Because prideful gives us this sense of like they're inwardly focused. They're worried about themselves, all right? So I got this quote out of the book that I wanted to read because it helps. I think it articulates the sin of pride for 2s quite well. Okay, and this is in the book. It said, the sin of pride comes into play in the ways 2s believe other people are more needy than they are, and that they alone know best what others require. They relish in the myth of their own indispensability, right? So 2s need to be needed. And in their need to be needed, pride comes up. And they feel like they know what is best for everybody else, all right? So in thinking and feeling like they know best for what's everybody else, that's where pride comes in, all right? Thing with 2s is that they always offer help, but they rarely ever ask for help. Okay, 2s will always offer help, but it's rare that a 2 will ask for help. And the reason behind that is because if a 2 asks for your help, okay, and they're rejected, meaning like they don't get the help that they're looking for from you, what that translates into the mind of a 2 is I am unworthy of love. Okay? I'm unworthy of love. And that's a problem because in their helping of others, they find their identity. Okay? In the helping of others, they find their identity. So they're always afraid and hesitant to ask for help because if they don't get the help that they are looking for in somebody, they perceive it as being unworthy of love. And so, because in a 2's mind, their identity and worth comes from helping others, a 2 at times, not all the time, but a 2 at times can be very calculated and even manipulative in the way that they offer help. Meaning, so they will offer help in a specific way because they want to hear something back. They want to get something out of you. All right? And so there's a certain Bible verse that really rings true to this that I think applies for 2s. And it comes from the Gospel of Luke. And it says, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. And I think this verse applies a lot to what a two may struggle with, that they give in order to receive. All right? Give in order to receive. A two will believe that that you have to be needed before you can be loved. Right? That you have to give in order to get. So that's kind of a lot of what goes on in the mind of a two. All right? So let's move on to the keys of twos, because I think, now that we understand what's happening in their mind and their heart, it's going to help us also unlock the keys of twos. Right? So a two always has, not always, but generally has unconscious or unstated expectations. All right? An average two who is not aware of themselves is always going to give help without maybe understanding that they are expecting something in return. All right? They will help you when you are stressed out, overburdened, and in need. A two is who's going to not only be there to help, but understand and know how to pick it up. All right? And so, if you're at work and you're stressed out and somebody, one of your coworkers is just you look really bad, let me help you out here, and they take on a project for you, okay, to offload your plate. When that two gets stressed themselves, they're expecting you to come and take the project off their hand, okay? But they didn't understand, they didn't know that they were expecting that, okay? They just think that's the way it should work. All right, that's the way it should work. You were stressed, I helped you. I'm stressed, where are you? All right, and when they don't get what they want, that tends to put two in an unhealthy place, all right? Because what they're looking for is validation of who they are. All right, but in their desire to seek validation through the help that they offer, what they don't realize is that twos can transfer power over themselves into the hands of those that they're helping. All right, so follow me on this. So a two will help you, and in feeling good about helping, that's where they get their identity from, okay? That's where they get their sense of validation from. And so, who is validating them? The person that they're helping. That is a lot of power to put in the hands of somebody else. It is a lot of power to put in the hands of somebody else to tell you that you are good and that you are worth it. All right? So twos can unconsciously transfer power into the hands of others while seeking validation for themselves. All right? And because so much is riding on this exchange between twos and those that they're helping, twos struggle with a fear of loss, meaning that if I'm not helping you, I could lose you, and if I lose you, I lose my sense of validation. Okay, so they have a fear of loss. And because it is linked to a fear of loss, that they have this deep fear of loss of losing you and losing their sense of validation, that's where twos tend to develop what they may call a sixth sense. It's coming out funny, but a sixth sense, okay? And that sense is the sense of what you need, all right? So they can look, they can kind of pick up on your body language, look at the situation around you, see your emotions. They pick up on what you need, and they start to act on that. So twos can have the sixth sense of, I know what you need. All right? Any questions? All right, so twos, in the workplace, if you can imagine, twos are people who need a lot of contact with other people because a sense of who they are comes in their ability to help. All right, so in the workplace, twos are not the people that you are going to be, find in a dark room somewhere doing data entry. All right, twos aren't data entry people. Twos are people. All right, so they need to be helped. When you think of like, that person in your office who's just always like, 2s are the human resource. Okay, 2s are the human resource at work. All right, because they like to always have the answer for you and always be that helpful hand to you. All right, when we look at 2s in childhood, okay, what does a child who's showing to be a 2 look like? This is the kid who wants to please everybody, all right? This is a kid who comes home and their day is like, the teacher asked me to help pass out the papers today, and I was the best helper to my teacher, okay? That's a 2 as a child, all right? They're good at school, they like to help out, they're looking at the home like, Mommy, can I help you with this? Daddy, can I help you with this? Let me help you put away your toys and stuff like that. That's a 2 as a kid. Obviously, I'm kind of exaggerating a bit, but I want to paint the picture of what a kid might look like. But the thing is, a 2 as a child gets this wounded message that expressing your need may lead to humiliation. Expressing what you need can lead to humiliation, because if you express your need and your need isn't met, that's humiliating to you. It tells you also that, kind of going back to the sin, that you're unworthy or that you're lacking. So that's kind of a wounded message that 2s can pick up as kids, is that telling people that you need help can be humiliating, especially when that help isn't given. When we look at 2s in relationships, okay? So 2s love relationships. Relationships take priority in a 2's life. Okay, they're highly interpersonal because they can sense what you need. They sense what their partner needs. They sense what their friends need. So 2s are very relational people. But in a relationships, healthy relationships are interdependent. Okay, not independent or dependent, but healthy relationships are interdependent. And so there needs to be a give and take in relationships. 2s tend to give to the relationship, but 2s struggle to ask for help in the relationship. So they struggle to express their emotion, they struggle to express their needs, because they find their value in helping you. All right, so they struggle. But over time, what happens for a 2 is that as they continue to give, and they neglect what they need, they can't express what they need, all these different things, at a certain point in life, a 2 often finds themselves like empty, like I got nothing else to give. Because I've spent so much giving to other people, and nobody has met my needs, nobody has sensed what I need and just done it for me, all right? So they find themselves empty. And all of a sudden, they stop giving, they go into a bad place, which we'll talk about under stress, all right? And only when a 2 begins to understand this idea of self-care, that in order to give to others, I must also take care of myself, that's when a 2 can find a new maturity level in offering help to others, all right? So later on in life, they can end up with an empty cup if they continue to give and neglect what they need. All right, so let's look at wings for a 2. So 2 sitting over here on the Enneagram. This is part of the Heart Triad. All right, so 2 sitting here. 2 can have 2 options for wings. They can go to a 1 or they can go to a 3. When a 2 has a 1 wing, what happens with the 2 is the help that they give to others is very controlled help. They will help in a very specific way. This is how I think you best need to be helped, and in helping you in this way, this is what's going to get you to the place that you need. So a 2 with a 1 wing can be very controlled in the way that they help others. All right? A 2 with a 3 wing, and I know we haven't done the performer or achiever as it's written here, okay, which we're going to do next. But a 2 with a 3 wing tends to be more ambitious, because a performer is somebody who's focused on success. Success is a driving part of their life. So a 2 with a 3 wing will be more ambitious and more confident about themselves, okay, because they have that success kind of woven into their DNA, if you will. All right, so there's their wings. When we look at what happens to a 2 in stress. So in stress, they'll go to the bad side of 8. Now, who remembers what the 8 was? 8 was the challenger, and the challenger has the need to be against. All right? But an unhealthy 8, okay, or a 2 who is under stress will go to the unhealthy side of 8, where they can be very demanding and controlling. Because think of it as a 2 is finding their sense of identity from the way that they help, okay? They're going to help, but they have a lot of demands attached to those help because they need to fill their sense of identity. And a lot of times, a 2 in an unhealthy place can begin to blame everybody else, all right? So a 2 who is stressed and unhappy, they will come back and they will act like they are a righteous martyr. I did all that help for this person, and they didn't even say thank you. All right, I can't tell how many times I've done this for you, and you don't come back and at least acknowledge the work that I've done. This is a 2 in an unhealthy place. Okay, they get very upset and they demand because they didn't receive the validation, but they need that validation, so they're going to go and get it the way that they need it. Okay, and become challenging to those around them. And security, okay, a 2 will pull from the good side of 4. Okay. And the 4, again, we're going to do it at the end of today, but they have kind of this less pretending, and what that means is that a 2 isn't going to neglect their needs as much, okay? So they get to be in tune with what they need. They tend to be a little bit better about self-care under times of security. All right. This could be my favorite part of each number. Bible character who is a 2.
Martha?
Boom. Right. Martha. Martha is a textbook 2. Okay? Martha is a textbook 2 character in the Bible. Because when you read the passage in Luke, okay, although it was the home of Martha and Mary and Lazarus, what does the text say? It says, Martha invited Jesus into her home. All right? So Martha is the homemaker. She invited Jesus, she invited disciples, everybody that traveled with Jesus. Okay, what was Martha doing? She was so focused on fulfilling the needs of others. All right, she was out serving, bringing Jesus, water, preparing dinner, doing all the different things around the house. Nobody asked her to do it, but Martha just realized, people are my home. This is what they need. So let me help them. Okay, so 2s are great, home people. They're very welcoming. All right? But what we see in Martha, when she gets stressed, where does she go? Bad side of 8, which is a challenger. Who does she challenge? Jesus. All right? Of all people to challenge Jesus. She challenged Jesus, said, Lord, how are you going to just watch me doing all this? Tell Mary to get up and help me. All right? And the Lord responds, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one, and that's what Mary has chosen. Okay? The thing about 2s, all right, is that nobody really asks them to do the things that they're doing. They just do it. They pick it up and they do it. So there's a lot of growth, room for spiritual growth. So areas that 2s need to grow in. They need to grow in, don't hint at your needs, express your needs. Okay? Learn to express your needs. It's in solitude and away from other people that you're going to find true validation in life. Okay? Because a 2 will help others in order to be validated, but really that's where the transfer of power happens, and they give people the power to validate them, so they need to step back, find silence and solitude, and that's where they find validation. And a 2's line needs to be, let me get back to you. When 2 is asked to help, let me get back to you. Okay? That gives a 2 a little bit of space to say, look, what is on my plate? Has God asked me to do this service? Or am I just reflexively helping everyone? All right? So let me get back to you. And self-care does not equate with being selfish. Okay? Those are areas of spiritual growth. All right. the performers. Any questions on twos? Great. All right, let's go to the performer. I remember back in college, okay, I had a friend named Jason. This man was never at a loss for words, all right? He could talk in any situation, and in every situation, he always had that story that was better than yours, okay? It was quite annoying, all right? He could talk about any topic, and he could talk about any topic ad nauseum, and he always showed that he knew more about the topic than you did. Again, annoying, all right? You could voice your opinion, but he was more convincing in his opinion, all right? Every argument had to be won, and he always knew somebody that you didn't, all right? Somebody like high up there, he knew, all right? Or he always had his eye on like whoever was of prestige, all right? And so, I think that my friend was a performer, all right? I think he was a 3. I don't know for sure, and I haven't called him up after 10 years to say, I think you should read this, but I think he was a 3, because threes or performers are very much so focused or revolving around the idea of success, okay? Success is what drives them. And when we look at threes, and we look at keys to threes, threes always are prepared for opportunities. They always live as like, opportunity will knock, and I need to be ready to take that opportunity. And I'm going to be studying and surveying the area to make sure that I know what's going on, I know what the potentials are, I know who all the key players are, and I'm going to be ready for that, okay? So they are ready when an opportunity presents to jump on it because it may lead to success for them. So they are so driven by success, but sometimes threes can define success very narrowly, okay? They can define it by what you own, who you know, or even how you look at times, okay? And so threes tend to be very put together, all right? They tend to be very put together people. They like to think in terms of completing goal-oriented tasks, all right? So threes aren't ambiguous people. Threes are the people, like, you sit down and like, okay, we're trying to solve this problem. At the end, they're going to be the ones who be like, what's my first objective? What's the second objective? And what's the third objective? Okay? Because don't give me something ambiguous, because I need to feel like I've accomplished something in figuring this out. So threes are going to approach life and be like very objectively based, okay? They need to hit the target because that target is a sense of success for them. It provides a sense of success for them, all right? But in their drive for success, okay, they tend to amputate their emotions. Because emotions take time. Emotions are messy. Emotions are not easy to navigate. Okay? Emotions, like, if you're married, like, you've gotten in a fight in the morning and you go to work and like your work day is miserable, all right? Because like life is messy at times. And relationships are messy at times. And you carry those emotions with you, all right? And they can slow up your day. Like you're kind of replaying it, you get in a fight with your kid or whatever the situation, mom, dad calls, like, those can carry with us. But for a 3, those are interpreted as almost a threat to their ability to get through the work and be successful. So in order to deal with that, in order to work towards being successful, they can emotionally amputate themselves from what's going on. All right? So they struggle with they struggle from a disconnect from their emotions. All right? The problem is that when you have a 3 who lives in America, it's like sticking an alcoholic in a liquor store, okay? Because like America is so success-driven that 3s really struggle in this country. It's all about like what you have and how you're producing and having more and who you know. So a 3 in America really struggles, where a 3 in another country is not going to have as much struggle. They're still going to struggle with success and aim to be successful, But threes in America really are, you don't stick a recovering alcoholic and say, figure it out in the liquor store, okay? It's not a good mix, all right? And so, threes in the workplace, they're very driven, they set goals, they reach their goals, then they set more goals, and they reach those goals, and they do it better and better every time, okay? And at work, they're the ones who are not going to have much tolerance for the emotions that leak into the workplace and gum up production, okay? So threes, even in the workplace, they don't like to get all warm and fuzzy. They're there for a reason, okay? But what are threes as child? Oh, sorry, I will say, threes also tend to have that talk style of being a salesman, okay? And threes tend to have a talk style. Every number has a bit of a talk style, all right? So he said, 1, the perfectionist, they'll start talking to you, but then by the end of the conversation, they're preaching to you, okay? A 9, talk style is mediation. I'm going to see every side of the situation, and I'm not going to tell you who I side with, because that will cause conflict, all right? So that's a 9, that's a peacemaker. A 3 is trying to sell you something for success, all right? So used car salesman, that's talk style. Number 3, they will tell you what you want to hear in order to get it done. So, childhood of threes, what their message is you are what you do. All right, you are what you do. So they tend to be, their accomplishments tend to form their identity. Threes could be the kid at the high school graduation whose accolades are being read for the next 3 minutes. Okay? Because they've just accomplished so much. Okay? That could be a 3. Not for sure, but that could be a 3. All right? Because their accomplishments are their identity, and you know which parent who the parent in the crowd is, because they're the ones who are loving every accolade. All right? All right? So their accomplishments are their identity, but the problem is with children, they equate being loved to their success. So if they're successful, they will be loved. And one of the greatest examples of this is in the book. I think it's a great example, okay? Because who knows who this is? We're back in the 80s. Andre Agassi. All right, Andre Agassi. So Andre Agassi, and over to the right, okay, in the Tennis Hall of Fame, you can go to their website if you're at all interested, and you can look at and see what each tennis player who's been inducted has accomplished. You can see he's a very well accomplished tennis player. All right? After retiring, Andre Agassi wrote an autobiography. And in his autobiography, he shocked everybody by saying from the day he picked up a tennis racket to the day he dropped the tennis racket and retired, he hated tennis. He hated tennis. Okay? Absolutely hated it. And if you've ever seen him play, he was the most angry tennis player possible. He got into fight with every single ref. All right? And he was known for throwing rackets, banging rackets, bent rackets. That was Andre Agassi. He was a bad boy of tennis. Hated tennis, okay? But if he hated it so much, why did he do it? All right? To win the approval of his father. Okay? So Andre Agassi is a 3.
So how, as a parent, how do you treat a child who's a 3? Because you're never going to stop and tell them don't achieve it, but if they do.
Mm-hmm. As a parent, there will be plenty of opportunities to show love to your children and validation that aren't linked with success. Okay? So as a parent, you can either say, you can acknowledge that they are working hard, or you can acknowledge good job. Okay? Good job is you get that when they've accomplished something. But when you acknowledge the process, okay, of you really worked hard, you were really persistent in that. That shows validation, regardless of whether or not they finished it. Okay, so there is ways as a parent to acknowledge that in your child. Okay, But Andre Agassi, kind of jumping, that's a very good question. But Andre Agassi jumped back to him. He was saying that his dad, he played tennis in order to win the approval of his father. And his father didn't know the difference about loving him versus loving his success in tennis. And so he fought to be successful in tennis in order to win the love of his father. And finally, when he retired, he came out and said, I'm done with this, and I hate it. All right? So being loved is conditioned on their success. This is a message that threes as children can take on. So we talk about the sin of threes is deceit. Okay? Is deceit. They deceive not others, though that's the easy one to think. Okay? But a three actually deceives themselves. Okay? A three deceives themselves. Because a three is somebody who can put on any sort of mask. Okay? Because when we're going for success, different opportunities, different situations require different things. So I can put on this mask, and put on this mask, and put on this mask. Okay? To the point that after a while in life, as they put on so many masks, they struggle to understand, well, who am I? Who am I as a person? Okay? The image of success wins admiration of others. And so they aim for that by putting on all these masks, being successful. But when you leave a three alone to sit with themselves for a while, threes can have this feeling inside and wondering, am I a fraud? Am I a phony in life? Who am I? All these accomplishments, all these different things, a three can begin to feel like they're a fake individual. All right? So deceit, well, yes, they do deceive others at times, but they deceive themselves because they've also emotionally amputated from themselves. All right? So threes in relationships, they are we got it together. Okay? We're okay. We got it together. Relationships can actually become a project for threes, okay? Because they are not in touch with their emotions. So a three can look, okay, at their relationship and objectify it. I want a good marriage. We're going to go on a date night. I'm going to buy you flowers, okay? We're going to have a nice vacation. We're going to read this book and make sure that we are feeding our marriage, and we're going to be fine. Okay, I'm going to check everything off. I've objectified my marriage. I have succeeded at my marriage. Okay, so three, obviously I'm exaggerating. If you're a three, you probably don't function like this in your relationship, or you may not. But threes can feel like their relationship is very task-oriented. Okay, or the spouse or the friend can feel like this is what we need to do. Okay, threes will also tend to keep separate circles. So this is my circle of friends, these are my work friends, these are like my church friends, and different things like that, because having all the circles together is too much work for a three to be like, I got this mask, and then this mask, and this mask. They can't change that fast, okay? So threes may prefer to have their circles in life separated, okay? And threes tend to avoid demanding relationships, right? So threes and what we're going to learn about fours can struggle in relationships because fours very much so experience their emotions as we're about to see, and threes are like, whoa, I got to get to work. All right, so threes with people who have high emotions, they can struggle in those relationships. All right, let's look at the wings quickly for the three. So three sitting right here, the performer. So three with a two wing, they tend to be helpful, okay? But they tend to be helpful and successful. They tend to be a little bit better team players, if you will, because they want to succeed, but they also want to see the group succeed. All right? But underappreciation is difficult for them because they're taking a bit of a two, which they need that validation. So three with a four, okay, wing. So they tend to live with confusion in life, okay, and internal dissonance, all right? So why does this kind of three with a four wing, it's what what the authors are saying, it's kind of like a sad combination. Because a 3 is really focused on success. Okay? A 4, as we're about to see, lives feeling like something is always missing. So when you have somebody who wants success, but has a wing that is like something's always missing from life, and it'll make sense in just a minute when we go to the 4s, it leads to a lot of internal dissonance within a 3, a lot of discontent and dissatisfaction in life. All right? And just wait till the 4, because if you're a 3 and you're wondering if you have a 4 wing, just wait till we come to 4s. All right? Let's look at stresses for 3s. So under stress, a 3 will go to the unhealthy side of 9. And 9s struggle with sloth or laziness. And so a 3 under stress will have less of a drive. And they will do stuff, but it'll just be busy work. It won't be substantial work. All right? Which a 9 is just excellent at doing worthless work. Okay? Trust me, I do it all the time. All right? Worthless work. Come home after saying, yes, I will do this, and like come home like, I've done this and this. All right? So I understand that. So, but 3s, under stress, they will do stuff, but it won't be the right stuff. But 3s in security will pull from the good side of 6, okay, which we'll cover next week. And that's where the 3 will become more in touch with their feelings, because 6 sits in the fear triad, and so they really, they think about things, they worry about things and stuff like that. But they tend to work in respect to a group. They think about group success. All right.
Jacob.
Boom. Exactly. All right. Jacob. Jacob is, the book I was reading by Richard Rohr was saying yes, Martha was textbook, but Jacob is the performer. Okay? They may be uncertain about other ones, but they are certain about Jacob. So let's talk about Jacob and how he fits into a 3. All right? Brought all the pictures out. Back when we were first introduced with Jacob and his brother Esau comes, and I'm hungry, I'm dying. Opportunity knocks. Okay? Give me your birthright. All right? His dad is getting ready to die. Son, go make me my game. I want to bless you. Rebecca hears it. Jacob, this is our opportunity for you to get the blessing. All right? Let's make you look like Esau. Okay? And go fool your dad. Then Esau gets upset, wants to kill him. Jacob runs away, finds his future father-in-law, who one-ups him. Okay? So the deceiver got deceived in this one. He worked 7 years to get Rachel, but was fooled at night with Leah, had to work another 7 years to get Rachel as his wife. All right? They then continued to work for Laban after that for some time. They had this whole issue with the sheep, okay? But Jacob realized that, working hard with the sheep and being successful was going to be his ticket out from his father's house. All right? And then he goes to the situation where he's wrestling with the angel. But even though he lost and his hip was disjointed, what they say was, what was the opportunity to capitalize on? You're not leaving until I get a blessing. Okay? You're not leaving until I get a blessing. And then lastly, okay, as he's coming back home after, family and success and all this stuff, he wants to, as best as possible, guarantee success when meeting Esau. So what does he do? He sends gifts and an entourage and saying Esau, my bigger brother, look at all these gifts I'm giving you, trying to butter him up to make sure the situation goes well. So he's always looking for success, and relationships can also be objective. If I give him this and this and this, we should be good. All right? So Jacob is a 3. And it does help that Jacob means deceiver too. Okay? Areas for spiritual growth. And really I just have this one verse to share. And it comes from 2 Corinthians 4:17 through 18. It says, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that outweigh them all. So fix our eyes on not what is seen, but what is unseen. since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. And this is a challenge to threes, to realize that while success is good and we are called to work hard, okay, that we need to keep our eyes on the heavenly and not on the earth. All right? Any questions on threes? Okay. Fours. Fours is tough. Okay? Fours is a tough number, and I was trying to find an example. All right? But a 4, when you get that phone call from that person, okay, that you're looking at it, and you're like, do I pick it up? Do I not pick it up? Because I know if I pick it up, I'll spend the next 45 minutes on the phone. Okay? Because this person is about to unload their entire life story on me and what they're feeling and what they're experiencing and all these different things. And the best picture that I could come up with was this one. Right? So this is likely, okay, Obama's a 9, okay, where people postulate he's a 9, but listening or being the friend or spouse of a 4 can sometimes be draining, because these are emotionally intense individuals. Okay? These are emotionally intense individuals. So when we talk about 4s or the romantic, they're also called the individualist. All right, so 4s lead a melancholy way of life. All right, so let's define melancholy. So melancholy is the experience of sadness without a clearly identifiable cause for sadness. Okay, so they experience sadness, but nothing has really upset them. You ask them what's wrong, nothing. But there's this level of sadness kind of brewing in their mind, or in their mind and their hearts. All right. Melancholy is not depression. Okay, it's important to differentiate. Okay, the romantics are not depressed people in life. All right. Melancholy is more of a mindset. Okay, or a posture in life, that they're always in touch into this sad undertone. In all situations, all right? So for example, to help describe that a little bit more, if you ask a 4, do you want to go and see Mission Impossible or Pride and Prejudice? I'm going to choose Pride and Prejudice, okay? There's a bit of sadness, all that, the emotions are there, okay? If you ask a 4, do you want to go to a theme park and ride the roller coasters, or do you want to walk through the park and think about life? They're going to choose, let's go take a walk in the park, think about life. All right? You're at the beach, you want to go rent jet skis, or just sit and ponder the ocean? I want to sit and ponder the ocean and just think about what is going on. I just got all these things going on inside of me. I just need to feel what's happening. All right? So melancholy is a way of life for 4s. All right? 4s, in touchness with their emotions, need to be special. Okay? So they feel their emotions, they're very in touch with their emotions, okay? And through that, they aim to be special by being unique, all right? By being so contemplative, all right? So when we think of this triad, okay, just kind of big picture of the Heart Triad, each one, as we were saying, is very emotionally, emotions run the gamut here, okay? So a 2, all right, all 3 of these are seeking identity in some way. So 2s seek their identity through helping others, okay? 3s find their identity in being successful. 4s find their identity in being unique, okay? In being unique. So through their uniqueness, they will, distinguish from others and gain love and acceptance, okay? So as people acknowledge that they were so thoughtful, okay, that I never thought about that, okay? Or wow, like you're dressed so differently, okay? All these different things is how a 4 might pull a sense of who they are as an individual. All right? Being a 4 is complicated, okay? And then what they say is like a 4 is one of the more complicated numbers on the Enneagram. Because what you see in a 4 is not always what you get. What you see in a 4 is always not what you get because there's always something going on inside of it. With a 4, like, they can be standing there, but like, they're wrestling with questions of like, who am I? What's my purpose? Okay? How do I fit into life? So there's always like big questions going on in the mind of a 4. And because they're asking these big questions of who am I, or what's going on, and how do I fit into life, and they don't necessarily have the answer, so 4s can always feel like there's something missing from their life, okay? They always feel like something is missing from their life. It's like owning an iPhone, okay? Follow me on this one. You go, like, I think like a new iPhone, like iPhone, what are we on, 10 now? Right? So you go to buy a 10. So you're like, I got the 10, I got the 10X, I got the 10XR, okay? And you're like, which one? Which one do I get? But if I get the 10XR, I'm gonna miss like the feature of the 10. If I get the 10, I'm not gonna get the color of the 10X. Like, it's like no matter what you choose, you're always gonna be missing something, all right? It's kind of what is going on inside of a romantic. It's just like, there's something always missing from the equation. And so, this continual dissatisfaction that they may have with their life tends to lead them to experience anguish quite regularly, all right? So a talk style of a 4 would be lament, all right? Talk style of 4 is a bit of lament. There's always a sad undertone, okay? So you want a sad story, you go ask a 4, you got it, okay? So 4s, supersize me, emotion edition, all right? That's what they are, because 4s seek to draw their identity from the emotions that they experience, and so they will experience grand emotions, okay? So, I'll give you an example. Like, I can miss the bus, okay? And I could be annoyed, all right? But I'll wait around. A 4 may miss the bus, and I'll go have a seat in the street corner. Like, what am I missing in life? I just missed the bus, and this person said this to me, like, did I miss something in the conversation? Are they gonna leave me? So like you just missed the bus, but a 4 will take it and the emotions will be much grander, okay? So they supersize their emotions. And the thing is, like, their emotions can be in a constant state of flux. Because we experience a lot of emotions throughout the day, okay? We're happy, we're sad, we're angry, we're frustrated, all these different things. We experience a lot of emotions in the day. Most people will experience emotions on this playing field. A 4 will experience emotions on this playing field, okay? And what they say with 4s, similar like when I was in Colorado, they always say, like, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. Okay, if you don't like the mood of 4, wait 5 minutes, another mood will come on. Okay? So 4s just experience a lot of emotions throughout the day. Because their identity is pulled from their emotions. So they will, bigger their emotions, if you will. Alright? So childhood for 4s. So as a child, a 4 will often feel different or misunderstood. Okay? They always feel different than the other kids at school. They always feel like kids want to play like basketball, I want to like do art. Alright? I don't fit in with those kids. Alright? Due to the gap between them and their friends, a 4 may highlight their differences between them and everybody else in order to draw attention and acceptance of themselves. Okay? So like, a 4 who doesn't fit in like with all the other like kids who play basketball may like cut their hair in a funny way in order to draw attention, and hopefully get that comment like, oh, cool haircut and stuff like that. So they will do something different, highlight their differences in order to gain acceptance with the others, okay? But a 4 kind of has this wounded message as a child, okay? There's something different about you, you just won't belong, okay? As a child, that's what a 4 can experience. And when you think of what they're experiencing as a 4, it kind of plays into what they struggle with as a sin. So the sins, the sin of 4, what they struggle with is envy. Because for a 4, something is always missing in life. And so they will frequently look at other people and be like, I wish I was more like that. Or I wish I had that. Okay? Or I wish my relationship looked a little bit more like that. Alright? So a 4 can experience envy, but envy is different than jealousy. Okay? Though a 4 can also experience jealousy, envy is different than jealousy. Because envy, okay, is desiring a characteristic that others possess. Okay? And envy is like, I don't possess this characteristic. Like, I'm not a funny guy. You're a funny guy. I envy you. If I was a funnier guy, like, more people would like me. Okay? I can envy. You're human. Alright? But jealousy is when something you have is at risk of being taken away from you by somebody else. Okay? That's jealousy. Okay? Like, as cliched as like, you're not going to take away my wife from me because you're like, you run harder, or you run longer and stuff like that. Like, that's jealousy. Okay? So, 4s struggle with envy. Relationships for 4s, okay? This is a roller coaster ride, okay? Because a 4 will experience emotions. And their emotions can be very intense at times. Intense to the point where their friend or spouse or partner can become fatigued in trying to keep up with their emotions, okay? And what happens is that a 4 in a relationship fears abandonment, okay? Fears abandonment. But their emotions are very intense and hard for their spouse to keep up with. All right? So they're always afraid of this abandonment. That I'm exhausting my partner, are they just going to leave me? And so what happens with 4s is a little bit of a push-pull maneuver in relationships. All right? So a 4 who struggles with envy will look at the relationship and highlight what is missing from the relationship. And be like, we're not doing this. We could be doing this better. And if you did this, things would improve in our relationship. They always highlight what's missing. But in the push, and that's the push aspect of what they do, but they push and all of a sudden they feel like, have I pushed too far? Is this person going to leave me? So what do? They pull them in. I love you so much. You're like the best person ever. Right? So it's a push-pull maneuver with 4s. And even that can be smothering and leaves the other person confused. Like, just a second ago, I didn't have everything you needed, and now, I'm the best person in the world. What is it? Are you going to work on this, or, am I perfect? So, that push-pull maneuver with 4s is really difficult and exhausting in relationships. And I know the kids came in, so I'm going to hustle up. So, 4 with a 3 wing, all right? There we go. I think it's cool because 4 with the 3 wings want to be uniquely the best. Not only do they want to be succeed, but they want to be unique at succeeding. All right, because that's also where they find their identity. And in order to succeed, they'll dial down their emotions. All right, because as we learned from 3s, emotions can get in the way of success. So 4 with a 5 wing, which is the observer or investigator, which we'll do next week. They tend to be more introverted, and they will sort through their emotions inside. Okay? They don't rely on everybody else to help process or experience their emotions. They can do that more internally. In stress, a 4 will pull from the bad side of 2. And so what this does is they repress their needs, okay? Let me make sure I get it right here. They repress their own needs, so they stop talking about what they need, all right? And they start helping others. And in times of security, a 4 will pull from the good side of 1. Sorry, I wrote That's wrong, okay? So in security, they'll pull from the good side of 1, which allows them to put into, like as a 4 is always experiencing like something is missing from my life, the oneness, like the secure, when they're insecure, they'll be able to implement plans to get what is missing, okay? Which 1s are very good at plans, and this is the way we're gonna do it, and stuff like that. All right, so this one was tough, okay? This one is tough. And I'll be honest, I don't know that I 100% agree with this one, but I do think there's a lot of like overlap with romantics and this Bible character.
Jeremiah?
No, but that could be one.
Peter?
John Solomon? He's one of my childhood friends. How did you know? You know him? All right. This one I'm going to go with what the book said, but Joseph. Okay? And when we think about Joseph, okay, I know at first I'm like, Joseph, but there's certain things that I think are interesting. So when you look at Joseph from an early age, he was different than his brothers. Okay? What did his dad do? He gave him this coat that set him apart. His brothers didn't like it, so he didn't really fit in with his brothers. Not to help the situation, but Joseph had 2 dreams, which really set him as being, everyone going to bow to me one day, all right? So Joseph, from an early age, was different, didn't fit in, was sold, and really had a hard time. Joseph was probably somebody who was like in prison, and really just like, what's going on in life? And to a point where we get a sense that he was getting desperate, and so when the butler was taken from prison, he's like, remember me, right? So we get this sad undertone in Joseph's life. And then after he got out of prison, became second to Pharaoh, and his brothers came into town, Joseph orchestrates such an elaborate reconciliation, process, okay? So he's very grandiose in the way he orchestrates. Like he invites them, after they come back, they sit down for dinner. Everybody's sitting in their birth order. Benjamin gets the biggest plate, like all these different things. Joseph goes out of the room and cries to the extent that everybody in the palace hears what's going on. Not to say that this isn't an emotional and thing, but these are the different things that can suggest that Joseph was possibly a fool. Okay? So, areas for spiritual growth for 4s is nothing is missing. You got everything that you need. God has provided everything that we need. And I think the Thanksgiving prayer is a great prayer that reaffirms that to us, right? We need to also, as 4, learn a degree of emotional detachment. Okay? Not amputate the emotions, but learn to temper them. Okay? Learn to just kind of pull it back in. We don't need to experience the wide range of emotions. We experience emotions, but we need to temper them a little. Okay? Because relationships depend on it. When we live with such a high amplitude of emotions, it exhausts those around us. Okay? And then prayer and contemplation, okay, can help ground your identity. Okay? Not your emotions, but they ground your identity. Okay? Because 4 can tend to get their identity from the emotions that they experience and the uniqueness that they seek. All right, so prayer and contemplation are big practices for me. Any questions? I feel like these are so intense. All right? Next week, our last triad, the fear triad, 5, 6, and 7. The investigator, the loyalist, and the enthusiast. Okay? So, how many up to this point feel like they've heard their number? Okay? All right. Who's in the anger triad with me? Okay. Angry. All right. Who is in this triad? All right. Okay. It's cool, guys. It's challenging stuff, but self-knowledge is important. And understanding what we struggle with is important so that we can work towards being more Christ-like. Okay? Not letting the unhidden, parts of who we are control us. Let's stand up and let's pray. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Lord God, amen. We thank you, Lord, for what you've given to us. We thank you for this day. We ask, Lord, that you would bless us along this journey, that you would continue to guide us as we learn about ourselves, and hopefully appreciate, Lord, that in us, while there is things that we struggle and things that we don't like about ourselves, but there are also things that are amazing about each number, that it's because of the uniqueness of each person, each number, and each personality type, that we have such diversity in the world, and that we're able to be a community that isn't comprised of just uniformity, but is able to be accepting of all. So pray, Lord, that you continue to be with us on this journey, and hear us as we say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. In Christ Jesus our Lord, for thine is the kingdom. Now the love of God the Father, and grace of His only begotten Son, our Lord God and Savior Jesus Christ, and the gifts of the Holy Spirit, may we all go in peace. The Lord be with you.